How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lone Wolf, and today I'm going to go and do a mission, attempt it, with the Derry 4520. I'm going to go and do, what's it bloody called, opening the warehouse. So I've sort of got to go down to the bottom of the map, grab a maintenance trailer. I'm going to take a similar route that I did the other day with the club, for a reason, because I'm taking the Derry. Yeah, zip up to that warehouse and drop it off. Theoretically, it should be pretty easy. Hence why I thought I'll give this thing a go, because, well, I don't really take it out that often anyway, because I don't think it's all that good, but I've not tried it on these new maps really. I'm not towing anything particularly heavy. Eventually I'm going to have to go and get a maintenance trailer, so in theory shouldn't be anything too bad. Another floating loaf. I did try it, I'll show you a little bit later. Tonight the game started like this for me. I turned it on, got to about here and I was like, oh yeah, I remember what I was up to. And believe it or not, the loaf was actually the aggressor in that situation. See, you'd never suspect a loaf. The sort of thing where like an 8-year-old kid would be stalking a clown, and then when the police are arresting the clown, they'd be like, I swear to God, kid's stalking me. The loaf will just wander off, find himself another clown victim. And that's how it goes. Anyway, yeah, when you put the loaf on the back of the Derry, which I'll show you later at the end, there's barely enough room. You can get the loaf on, although that whole winch setup thing on the back of the Derry gets in the way quite a lot. The Derry also doesn't have what they're called, like fenders on the rear or whatever, so there's nowhere to sit your loaf's tyres, so they essentially sit on the back tyres of the Derry and kind of fight against it. So all in all, it's it's just not a very good trip. When you look at it now, I mean, going up the hill it was kind of okay. Yeah, even though like the first little bits of mud, it's just I don't even know what they could do really to fix this thing. A few different people in the last months have kind of mentioned in the comments various modded versions of this. Some people have modded just the engine power and said that in and of itself, I believe it helped, but I don't think it, you know, completely changed like the characteristics of the truck. It's got kind of small wheels considering how massive and bulky it is. I believe it's also got, yeah, the Royal engine in it or something, which is good for the Royal. It's like a normal medium-sized, pretty light truck really as well, the Royal. Certainly got no weight low down because it rolls very easily. This thing is a bit of a beast. I don't know where its weight sits in terms of like the heaviest to the lightest. I know stuff like the Collobs and the P16 and that are the heaviest. I would say this is pretty far up there though. That's definitely what she said. I mean, going through here, it's not doing too badly, but I have drove through here in quite a few other things, including the P12, which is slightly notoriously underpowered. And the P12 drove through here, absolutely no issues at all. This thing still feels a little bit luggish. Obviously I'm towing a horsepower vehicle with me at the minute. You'll see why as the video plays out for multiple reasons. Not only that, but there's multiple times throughout the video where I disconnect the loaf and it doesn't give me any speed burst or anything like that. Yeah, this thing just has so much trouble with its own weight and actually getting up to speed. You end up just sitting in first a lot, and once you're in first, it goes this fast really whether you're towing the loaf or not. I certainly try and stick it in high quite a lot. I've got the high range gearbox in this. Every now and then when I've taken this out before, I've ended up putting the off-road gearbox in, but in all honesty, I even sort of remember it in the review and when I used it shortly after that. I don't think it's very good with the off-road gearbox either. And in the end, I kind of prefer just the high range for having a little bit of speed to get going along. I mean, it's the sort of truck that, under normal circumstances, I wouldn't take out on this kind of mission, or maybe this one isn't too bad apart from the beginning. But yeah, maps like Zimnegorsk, I don't think this thing's ever been out in Zimnegorsk, just because it'd be just, yeah, horrific all the way along. But on maps like Michigan, I sometimes go flying around for a little lap or whatever. Then I can take it, and obviously the high range feels a bit better then. So this is the trailer you got to grab. And you can see, as I drove into this place, I released the loaf just as I was pretty much coming up onto the railway bit anyway. It kind of got a little bit of speed coming in here, but not a whole lot. But now, even with this trailer, I've towed these trailers around with I've towed these trailers around with everything. And yeah, I think a loaf would tow this thing out of there even better than this. It just can't even, it doesn't even sound like it's trying to get up the revs in first. I don't know, it's just, there's something always been a bit off about this truck. But yeah, like I said, it was one of the things that doesn't come out very often. I may as well get some gameplay of it. So I could have doubled back on myself, but figured I'd take my chances going this way. And yeah, we're definitely bringing the loaf. But again, you'll see, as I release the loaf, it doesn't make much difference. Whereas the loaf does save me a couple of times. This is goddamn professional. Yeah, right now, about now, regretting my decision. Like, Jesus Christ. It's such a shame as well, because this was... I think we all thought this was going to be one of the better, if not best trucks in the game. We're all like grinding through the levels to get it, and when you get it, you're just like, what? The best thing ever about this truck, as such, is it was so bad that I've sold it and got about 200 grand back and was able to treat myself to many other things. I was looking at the rev counter there. I can't even remember if it works or not, but either way, the revs are sitting bloody low. Yeah, I mean, that's probably another thing that might be affecting this, though. When somebody said about upping the power on it, if they've put some ridiculous rev and speed caps on it as well, I don't even know how much, you know, upping the power would help, because once you're going to hit the rev limiters, then it's sort of irrelevant. It cuts whatever power you've got left regardless, so maybe that could do with being looked at. I think bigger tyres would be nicer, but with how close the rear axles are, you couldn't go that much bigger unless they're just going to start overlapping each other. If the custom muds were like working realistically, I would say, in this game, they'd be pretty cool to try it on, but I don't know by now. I mean, we're 7 or 8 months into the game or whatever, how the hell they haven't fixed anything or done anything with this yet is yeah, a bit odd, because like I say, they could as well put custom tyre stats on it like they got the Tatran and the P16, so at least it'd be a little bit, yeah, a little bit better at doing things. I mean, again, the obvious one I would do is put the twin steer engine in it. A minute ago as well, you've seen I did disconnect the loaf and I reattached it because it made absolutely no difference to speed or anything. I'm in low range diffs on it, it's going this fast pretty much regardless, and as you'll start to see, like, this is pretty terrible. And if you think I'm also winched to the loaf is now trying to overtake the maintenance trailer and drive up past the Derry, so the loaf is affecting nothing at the minute. In fact, given that a few of you have noticed this, I've mentioned it before, when you attach a winch to something else, you seem to get like a slight grip bonus or something. So the fact that I'm attached to the loaf, but the loaf is now pushing the maintenance trailer, it's officially helping me up the hill. That isn't affecting it at all, it's just this thing can't even pull a maintenance trailer. And to be fair, out of all the different trailers you get, obviously some of them are really bugged, it seems, with the fuel weight. The obvious one being that, not like the massive semi-fuel trailer, just like the towable one like this, but it's just fuel. That's like ridiculously weighted, it tips over really easily, all the rest of it. I've always taken a lot of Scout fuel trailers out, because they're actually pretty decent for 900 litres of fuel. It doesn't really hinder you or anything. This thing as well, considering it's got, I don't know, 2,000 litres in or whatever it is, isn't really that awkward with weight and all the rest of it. As I said, I've towed loads of these trailers around with every truck in the game. Even Scouts, I've moved these trailers around. And yeah, the other day, this is the route now, basically, that I came with the Kolob, the flat face one, and I had a loaf on board, and it was, obviously I drove through it like it was nothing, just left it in gear and it was ticking along just fine. I also did bring a maintenance trailer with me, so it was like the same setup, only I think the loaf was sat on the Kolob. Again, I just disconnected and reconnected just to see if there was any speed boost or anything while we're going. Yeah, like I said, I was originally going to do this video yesterday, and then, yeah, they turned up outside, started digging the bloody floor up again. Still saws going, grinding little, like, channels out of the ground, and then they got a mini digger thing, jackhammer, pecking it all away. God knows what they've done. They did all this work months ago, and then they kind of finished it all, and then I'm going to go out on a limb and assume they did something wrong or fucked something up, because they basically come back and now re-chiseled the same trench through my driveway and into the road, and then all the road works on the main road, which means the traffic's a nightmare. And coincidentally, when traffic's a nightmare, the amount of police and ambulances that need their blue lights on, but then just as they get past my house, they get the call that says they're no longer needed. But they just coincidentally made it through that traffic jam. I don't really mind, to be fair. To be honest, if I had blue lights on my car, I'd probably abuse the shit out of it. It'd be like emergency flying into the McDonald's drive-through and all sorts. Everything. Car washes, traffic jams. Just when I'm sat on my drive. Oh yeah, look at this bit. I believe I've already released the loaf at this point. I'm in auto. That's it. All 8 wheels locked up. Because I'm on that much of a hill. And I'm only towing a maintenance trailer. Put it in low range diffs on. It does start to go pretty, you know, unconvincingly though, I would say. I'd be willing to bet stuff like the P16, the Collobs, well, pretty much everything to be honest, could fly up there with that trailer. So yeah, right about now I was like, oh god, regretting my decisions to bring this thing. Fortunately, this is one of the only steep hills I've got to get up. But yeah, I mean, it's a disaster. This thing ain't getting out of the way for no blue lights. I can't be the only one though, you know when you like driving along and police pull out behind you and you're just like, oh no, even though I've never done anything wrong, taxed, insured, MOT'd the lot. I'm just like, oh crap. If they find a grenade in my boot or something, they'll never believe me when I say I did not know how that got there. Too many people have used that excuse. Do you know what I did say? It was random, but while we're cruising along with this. By the way, this is one of the few sections everything can motor along there because it's just not super snow. Yeah, I remember a few years ago, well, probably more than a few years ago now actually, I was with my brother and we were just coming out of McDonald's, about to go onto a roundabout where they, I don't know, there's about 4 or 5 exits. Anyway, a load of police bikes come flying around the corner and they blocked us as we're about to get onto the roundabout, and then they blocked all the other lanes, and then, yeah, 2 unmarked Range Rovers come absolutely flying onto the roundabout, going pretty bloody fast to be honest, especially for like in Range Rovers. Bit iffy with tipping at that speed. Yeah, flew round the roundabout. Behind them was like another 6 odd police bikes, all with their sirens going. They're all marked and everything. And then yeah, the police drove off from blocking us and all the other roadways, and we could just see as they were driving off, all the police bikes started overtaking the Range Rover, and they're obviously all going ahead, blocking every road off. And apparently it was because there'd been like a seizure of heroin or something in the city, and they must have been moving it because they were worried the police station was going to get attacked or something. Like, I heard a lot of rumours and stuff. I know, I'm pretty damn sure it was tens of millions of quid's worth of heroin. I heard figures all the way up to 100 million. I don't know about that. I honestly have no idea. I would say it was more than like 1 million quid's worth of heroin, because 1 million quid's worth of stuff gets seated like it's England. Yeah, this was like the real deal, like out the films, and they obviously were moving this stuff in 2 unmarked Range Rovers, probably armed as well, with, I don't know, 10, 12 odd police bikes that were all sort of racing ahead, blocking every entrance and exit way to the road, and they must have been moving it off to another police station. But yeah, because it was that much heroin, again, like that's what would make me assume tens of millions. They were moving it like like a scene out of the films, because I think they thought someone could theoretically go Mad Max style and yeah, try and intercept them as they're moving it, because I assume it'd be a pretty good payday for whoever manages that one. So yeah, it was pretty crazy. Back to this thing again, sadly. Yeah, I have fully left the loaf behind now. The loaf's goddamn professional. He can fend for himself a lot better than this thing, so it had to happen. Yeah, look, I can't even get up this hill. Low range diffs on, and all I've got is a trailer. This is just a little bit, by the way, of that same road that the Derry was flying along. I mean, the loaf is a goddamn professional, but I'm just saying, it is like, there isn't any super snow in that section. That's nearer to how the snow should behave in this game, really. Or, again, I don't really mind when you go off into the middle of nowhere with like the snow drifts and stuff. Fair enough, that can get a little bit crazy. You see though, what do I always say? Get yourself a loaf. Oh yeah, I shouldn't have left him behind. Should have gone all the way with him. Yeah, sounds like something she'd say. But yeah, I left him because Derry is so horrifically bad, and despite the fact that I know bringing a goddamn horse or vehicle with you is beneficial every single time, I didn't want it to appear like it's making the Derry have an even worse time than it already was. But as you can clearly see, multiple times already, and we're only about halfway through the mission. Yeah, the Derry doesn't need any help to be shown to be a horrifically bad truck in this game. I switched to the Derry to do the winching thing. It was still pulling me up the hill when I was in the loaf, but obviously this thing reverts back to like auto, no diffs on. I'm not even sure if it had the all-wheel drive on. I didn't really pay attention, but yeah, it'd be pretty cool if you could switch to a vehicle, like if I could turn all the, well, do that low-range diffs on with a Derry, then go back to the loaf. But it makes no odds. It's just, yeah, I flung a winch out to the loaf and did it that way. The loaf's got diffs always on and all-wheel drive always on, and it's absolutely fine in auto anyway, so that's another good thing with the old horse of a vehicle, is fling out a winch to it. It's always pulling as much as it would whether you're in it or not. Whereas yeah, trucks like this that have it all as switchable stuff, you have to be in it really to get it all turned back on. And yeah, right now I was like, oh hell no, I'm definitely bringing the loaf with me now. I mean, a low range diff's on at the minute, so I'm going to be going this slow regardless. Gonna attempt some auto, downhill, downhill with the wind behind me. Finally get it in, get it in high, and then I was like, oh shit, gigantic rock in the middle of the road. But yeah, there's a few sections along this that are just, they go from absolutely like super mud and super snow back to, you know, a light dirt road or something where you can just actually get into high gear. But again, the Derry overall, you need one of the biggest run-ups. Like, it takes quite a lot to get it wound up into high gear to where it'll actually become stable and sit in it. It really doesn't take a hell of a lot for it to start bogging down like it just did then. Yeah, this is one of those where I still don't know if it'd work or not, but hypothetically, if you did remove that inside axle, it'd have more power to share between the other tyres. It also maybe, obviously in this game it's replicating what we're seeing, it's all just ones and zeros and all the rest of it. With some vehicles, when they've got a lot of tyres, they also kind of share the amount of weight they're supporting, which does make sense, but I just mean, in sometimes it feels with some of the trucks, the way this game pans out, that's not always the best thing. Sometimes it might be, but it's just like, as well in this game, I think the more weight there is on each wheel, the more it does kind of plant itself into the ground and claw along. So if you're spreading the weight out, it might end up, after doing all its coding calculations, like, oh, this wheel hasn't got a lot of weight on it, so it's not got as much grip. And again, that's just gut feeling. I certainly don't know a hell of a lot. Well, I know practically sod all about coding, but yeah, I certainly don't know anything about the coding on this game or how it all works as well. Trying to get back into high gear, but it's having none of it. Fortunately, we're not too far off. Leave me little horse again. He'll be fine from here. We're near the garage. But still, that just shows you again, it's nothing to do. I think a lot of times throughout this game, especially when I was in low range with the diffs on, the loaf's driving quick enough that there was no tension in the rope. It's just walking a loaf along behind me, really. But yeah, there was at least 2 times where the loaf either pulled this thing up the hill or had to give it a little boost. And I'd say, I guess, I mean, we're on about 18.5 minutes now. It probably would have been half the time, yeah, with that club. Even now, by the way, I was turning, obviously, to avoid that thing. The weight of the trailer I'm towing as well was just flinging my back end round then, so it was like a big fat super drift. And we binned it. But yeah, that is the mission. In theory, pretty easy. As long as you bring just about any truck other than this thing. I was so close just to smashing it into those buildings. I was like, hang on a minute. Trying to read what's going on. There's 2 separate warehouses here. And I believe they've both got different amounts of things in them. And yeah, the rest of this, if I'm honest, was just me messing around. Don't you dare knock my loaf off his little loading platform. Just kind of seeing while I had the Derry here, the loaf here, and the club. Messing around with a few things. This is loading a loaf onto the back of the Derry. As you can see, it just about fits. That's definitely what she said. But because there is no, or are no fenders, like the wheels are pushing on the Derry wheels, and again, loaf's goddamn horse vehicle. It overpowered the Derry and just locks its wheels up. Because obviously, because I'm winched to the loaf's trying to drive forward at the same time, and it's just fighting its wheels right now as well. I can't even climb up this. Loaf's like, oh hell no. I'll get myself a better horse than that. Yeah, it made it up there on its own if you kind of floored it and ramped it up a bit, but the fact that it couldn't even get up there with just a loaf on it is not good. But you see, loaf's goddamn professional. So what's next? Oh yeah, now I had to try the club for my own peace of mind. I quite like this little loading bay section. You'll see coming up the floor where kind of the club is now. It's not quite as concreted and strong as it might make you think. But yeah, this is pretty handy. So if they had some kind of just a little ramp and then a square section like that in all the garages now, so you could just drive up the ramp or just jump the train tracks if you're a goddamn horse or a vehicle. But yeah, just let us drive up, have a little loading ramp, and we can just drive onto the back of trailers. It's pretty cool just being able to drive onto the back of the club, which it handled pretty well. Stubbed my chin still there. I'm not sure though, because I've been like quitting the game, reloading, etc. Oh, I might still have the suspension activated. And then fancied making a break. Let's see you later, Derry. We're out of here. Where we're going, we don't need roads. See? Well, that's how a goddamn horse or a vehicle escapes a walled compound. He's out of there. Starting to tip a bit, but oh, stubbed his dick on the fenders. Had that issue before. I don't need, if I'm honest, I wasn't really doing anything at this point. I was driving around, messing around. Decided to see if I could make my way, make a break out, and then I broke back in. Get out of the way, car. If I can't drive you, then you don't count. So you're having the time of my life. The club and loaf. I'm gonna look at the Derry, like dickhead. Get your own loaf. Get yourself a decent engine while you're at it. Yeah, you hit it at a little bit of an angle. You let the wheels kind of jump up before it catches its chin. Jumps up there pretty nicely, if I do say so myself. Considering another little escape, you see, this is many reasons though. You get yourself a loaf. He's out of there. Give him a little hand. Flicks. Locks in the physics. Does he remain upright or not? Right now, I was like, oh my god. What a goddamn professional. I already know he's good. He knows. That's my loaf. And we're off. Off for more good times. Oh yeah. Basically, I said to myself in my own head, when I put the loaf on the back of the Derry and it could barely drive, I said to myself, my loaf could carry a club better than the Derry could carry a loaf. So I set about trying to figure out if that was even remotely possible or not. Takes a little bit of nudging. I'll go back and forth a bit. Wiggle it in there. Yeah, I've got a winch from the back of the club to the back of the loaf. I keep trying to sort of drive forward along the roof. But I'm essentially scraping its chest plate. Its chassis plate all along the roof rack. I do think at the minute, I mean, I did mention this the other day, but every now and then you do need a bold loaf. I mean, don't get me wrong. A hairy loaf is a good thing, but yeah, every now and then a bold one does help. See now what I was saying though, with the supposedly tarmacked, concreted yard or whatever. Not as tarmacked or concreted as it may appear. My loaf, he's about in there, but well, bang, he fired himself back out. Must have stubbed his dick on the railing or something. Beginning to become quite an issue. But anyway, yeah, as that happened, damaged his fuel tank, and as every goddamn professional knows, when he's leaking fuel, he has to run to the nearest fuel source until either another loaf arrives to fix him, or steal his own fuel. I'll refill the roof rack, and he'll make his own way home. There's what you get from a professional. Yeah, you see, in the end, got him on. Like, will you base? So when you're absolutely rat ass and you're trying to help your mate home who weighs about 8 times more than you, like, easy does it. One step at a time, we can make it. I mean, I'd already argue at this point. The loaf has successfully got a club on his roof. He's officially jiggling around, but as you can see, the yeah, quote-unquote concrete or tarmac that is not concrete-ish or tarmac-ish at any point, it's just like a little mud puddle now. Suspension's looking good. Good job it's loaf trained. And that was about it. That was the things I've been up to after doing that mission. It took a lot longer than it should see. Even the loaf's mates turned up to marvel at what was going on. And then again, the problem is, every time I restart or jump back into the loaf after I've got the club on. As you can see, it does the little jiggling around thing as it kind of fires me back out the floor and also leaves a puddle behind. And then, yeah, the club was tipping back all over the place, but I was having a good time. In the end, the loaf, yeah, he'd had enough. Like some judo. Wow. Got him off. Of course he's back on his wheels, goddamn professional. Anyway, that's about it for today though. I hope you enjoyed, I hope that helps. Thanks for watching. Get yourself a loaf of course, he's goddamn professional, and I'll be back soon.